Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Greetings, my friends, and welcome. Great to have you here. Been eagerly looking forward to today's excursion into broadcast excellence. Into the week is upon us. It is Friday. Let's hit it.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
And where is this damn thing? I just had it here. Well, I'll find it. I just had it here. This is the unemployment news, the jobs. It was good news. That's all you need to know. It was good news. The unemployment rate stays at 4.1%. The number of jobless claims, which I know sounds confusing for those of you in real it means the number of people applying for unemployment was way down below expectations. But that's not the news. The Hispanic unemployment rate dropped to 4.7%. That is the lowest in the history of the United States. 4.7% unemployment, Latino and Hispanic population. And again, that's the lowest in the history of the United States. Couple this with the news that we have had all week, that manufacturing jobs, the original number was 40,000, and I think the number is closer to 50, maybe 51,000 manufacturing jobs recreated. These are jobs which had been lost, recreated, repatriated, remade here in the United States in the first 10 months of the Trump administration. The economy is just booming. The statistics here are undeniable. And why do you think the unemployment rate for Hispanics dropped to 4.7%? Again, that's the lowest in the history of the United States. Now, you compared that, the Democrat Party, and for that matter, the Republicans for the last 20 years have been doing competing handstands, trying to convince Hispanics that they're all for them by promoting amnesty, by having open borders. And, of course, this didn't lead to any good news on the economy. It didn't lead to any good news for the Hispanic community in terms of employment. So now we got a new sheriff in town, literally, and deportations are way up, although it has been discovered that Obama had reported deporting something like 500,000 illegals. They weren't deported. It was, we'll chalk it up to a clerical error. The point is that is a number that is as large as the population of Atlanta. That is larger than the population of Sacramento. That's an outlier because deportations are way up and the numbers of illegals attempting to get into the country is way down. I mean, the things that have taken place, the dramatic changes that have occurred, the sad thing is that 90% of the American people that watch the news media don't know any of this. Because they watch the drive-by media. The drive-bys are not reporting any of this. Of course, the drive-bys are only reporting that Trump is a scoundrel and he should resign now that Franken's resigned and the collusion with Russia and all that. The news here is dramatic. No matter where you look at it, 4.7% unemployment in the Hispanic community. You know, I'm really confused here because I had this story right in front of me and it's not here, but here's the next one I'm looking for. 92% of Democrats uninformed. This is, what is the polling data? It was the company here, CBS News. New poll released this week by CBS News found that 92% of Democrats believe Trump advisors had improper dealings with Russia. Only 6% of Republicans believe that. That is an illustration of just how bad, when you get right down, just bad, weak mainstream news reporting is. 92% of Democrats believe that Trump advisors had improper dealings with Russia. Here isn't any evidence of this. There hasn't been a shred of evidence found. In fact, the evidence that keeps being discovered illustrates quite the opposite, that it's the Democrats and Hillary and the FBI that were having all the illicit contact with Russia. We had a blockbuster yesterday about a guy in the DOJ, and there's more news on that today, which we'll get to in due course. But slowing the rate of illegal immigration has to be helping the U.S. economy, and it has to be helping U.S. citizens. It may hurt Democrats and vote fraud schemes and so forth, but it is helping American workers. Flooding the workforce with illegals suppresses wages, and the numbers of illegals even trying to get into the country is way down. 4.7% unemployment in the Hispanic community. I think it's incredible. Bombshell, ready for this? Roy Moore accuser Beverly Nelson admits that she forged the yearbook. You remember what the yearbook, this is the Gloria Allred special. And now Beverly Nelson, who was one of Roy Moore's accusers from 40 years ago, has admitted she forged it. So she has no credibility, none at all. And Gloria Allred still has not released the yearbook so that it can be forensically tested. I wonder why she hasn't. Now we know why. Because the perp has admitted she forged it. Beverly Young Nelson has finally admitted she forged a portion of the infamous Haskell yearbook that she and attorney Gloria Allred used as proof of her accusations against Roy Moore. In yet another blow to the credibility of ABC News, the disgraced left-wing network downplayed this news by presenting this admission of forgery as adding notes to the inscription. In other words, ABC's not reporting forgery. ABC says Nelson admits that she did make notes to the inscription, but the message was all Roy Moore. ABC News reporter Tom Yamas, Beverly, he signed your yearbook. She says, yeah, he signed it. And you made some notes underneath. Yeah, I did. And then after a woman admits to forging a document used in a campaign to destroy a Republican nominee for the Senate, ABC News moves on as though it's not news of any extraordinary consequence. And this is why people who only watch the drive-by news really don't know what's going on in their own country. They really don't know. You know more listening to this program on a wide variety of issues. You know news from both sides of the aisle. You know news from the world of sports. You know news from the world of economics and business. We cover it all here. And you have an outsized advantage of a good percentage of your fellow citizens do not literally know 75% of what you know. They don't know that they don't know it either. By the way, this leads me to something that's got me rather disappointed today. I must admit I'm a bit down. There's a column by David Brooks in the New York Times today, and the title of the column is "The GOP is Rotting." So I figured I had to play prominently in this because I've always played prominently in David Brooks' columns. I'm always held up as one of the primary perpetrators in the dissolution of the party, the damage to the party. But I didn't make the cut in this column. Sarah Palin and Fox News are held out today as the primary perps destroying the Republican Party. Let me give you a flavor. This is newsworthy, folks, because this is the guy the New York Times hires as their conservative columnist. A lot of good, honorable Republicans used to... What? Lindsey Vonn? Yeah, that's coming. Like I say, I can't do everything I'm going to do here in the first segment. Of course we're going to get to Tiger Woods' ex-girlfriend. Absolutely. I think we now know why she and Tiger split up, by the way. If Lindsey Vonn and Tiger were still dating and Tiger goes off to play golf with Trump, what do you think is going to happen when Tiger gets home? So it was going to happen anyway. Okay, now back to David Brooks. A lot of good, honorable Republicans used to believe there was a safe middle ground. You didn't have to tie yourself to the hip with Donald Trump, but you didn't have to go all the way to the other extreme and commit political suicide like Jeff Flake did either. You could sort of float along in the middle and keep your head down until this whole Trump thing passed. Now, this is a false construction. There isn't this grand middle where Republicans of no opinion are lurking, waiting for Trump to go away. Trump doesn't have polarization like that. There's nobody paying attention that is of no mind. Trump has what is called in the media world perfect polarization. What that means is he's got pretty much an equal amount of hate versus an equal amount of love. If you're out of balance in polarization, if 75, 80% of people hate you and 20% love you, then you have a problem. Not personally, but if you're employed somewhere, for example, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. But perfect polarization, Trump has it. In fact, I would actually say that there is a greater percentage of people in the country that love Trump than hate him. I think the idea that half the country hates Trump is overblown, but we'll go with it because that's the theme of the drive-bys. And so David Brooks is saying here that there used to be a place for never Trumpers to live where they didn't have to really sign on and love Trump, and they didn't have to go to the extreme like Jeff Flake. And I'm sorry, but that's not true. Every never Trumper is a Jeff Flake. There aren't any mild-mannered never-Trumpers trying to straddle the middle. Part of the definition of being a never-Trumper is being vocal and passionate about it. But anyway, Brooks believes that this mythical place of a peaceful middle once existed, but for some reason it has vanished. Because he says now it's clear that middle ground doesn't exist. That's because Donald Trump never stops asking. Ready for this? First, Trump asked the party to swallow the idea of a narcissistic sexual harasser and a routine liar as its party leader. Then, Trump asked the party to accept his comprehensive ignorance and his politics of racial division. In other words, Brooks is saying that Trump demanded that you ignore and maybe even accept what Brooks claims is Trump's life as a sexual harasser and routine liar. And then Trump forced you to accept the fact that he doesn't know diddly squat about what he's doing. He's completely politically ignorant and racist. And you've had to swallow all of that in order to be a Trump supporter. Now, this is a conservative columnist. This guy with comprehensive ignorance is getting more done in the first year of his administration than anybody David Brooks has ever voted for. Donald Trump is getting more done in the first 10 months of his administration than anybody David Brooks ever wanted to be president. Hands down. Yeah, and I'm going to throw Ronaldus Magnus in there. I'm not saying Trump is a replacement for Ronaldus Magnus. Don't misunderstand here. I'm drawing the analogy for David. David Brooks not a big Reaganite either at the time. But the idea that Trump's got this comprehensive ignorance and is a racist, it makes it impossible for us sophisticated people to ever support him. At the same time, writes Brooks, Trump asks the party to become the party of Roy Moore, the party of bigotry, the party of alleged sexual harassment and child assault. There is no end to what Trump will ask of his party. He's defined by shamelessness, and there is no bottom. And apparently there's no end to what regular Republicans are willing to give Trump. Trump may soon ask him to accept his firing of Robert Mueller. And yes, after some sighing, They'll accept that, too. You're right, Brooks. We can't wait for that one. Be a great Christmas present. So Brooks says, that's the way these corrupt bargains always work. You think you're only giving your tormentor a little piece of yourself, but he keeps asking. And he keeps asking. And before long, he owns your entire soul. Can you believe this? The torment these people go through? Look, okay, you don't like Trump, fine. But, man, Trump's not corrupting everything. Trump is cleaning things up. You know, Trump's draining the swamp. The broadcast engineer, Brian, had a point for me today. Trump is draining the swamp in ways we never dreamed it would happen. Look at all the sexual harassers being outed. Look at all the elite, sophisticated, we know better than you how to treat women. We know better than you how to govern. All of these people are dropping like flies, and it's all because of Trump. If Hillary had won, none of this would have happened. And Brooks is worried the Republican... I'll tell you what, Brooks was taking the Republican Party into oblivion. Brooks and his buddies were going to see to it the Republican Party was no different whatsoever from the Democrat Party. And what would have happened to it then? These guys are beside themselves because what Trump is doing is working. He is outsmarting them, and that's the biggest insult because they think Trump, Brooks means this. He thinks that he's comprehensively ignorant. These people, these elites, they do think that's the thing that really gives them their self-esteem. That's what they really think. They are that much smarter than everybody else. And they're having trouble dealing with being outsmarted here. They were outsmarted the day Trump won the election. They were outsmarted the day Trump survived the Access Hollywood. They were outsmarted the day Trump survived the Trump dossier. Anyway, I have to take a break. We're just getting warmed up here. Hang on. Okay, so Brooks continues here. It's amazing that there haven't been more Republicans like Mitt Romney who have said enough's enough, I can go no further. And this is the money paragraph for Brooks. The reason, I guess, is that the rot that has brought us to the brink of Senator Roy Moore began long ago, starting with Sarah Palin and the spread of Fox News. The GOP traded an ethos of excellence for an ethos of hucksterism. Now, usually I'm in that paragraph. Usually I lead that paragraph. I've been left out of this paragraph, and Fox News has been substituted. I'm not aware, and it probably has happened, I'm not aware that Brooks has blamed Fox News for what's gone wrong with the Republican Party. That's the conservative columns in the New York Times. And get this, exclusive Washington Post, the headline, former Jeb Bush staffer planted anti-Roy Moore coverage in the Washington Post. Former Jeb Bush campaign staffer Tim Miller was responsible for giving anti-Roy Moore information to the Washington Post, according to text messages obtained by Big League Politics. This is a blog at the Post. Tim Miller is the co-founder of America Rising Super PAC, which was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars apiece by the Republican National Committee and the Senate Leadership Fund during the 2016 campaign cycle. He served on the Bush campaign a communications role, has since established himself as an anti-Trump Republican, lauded by the anti-Trump left for his opposition to the Republican presidency. This is a guy working for Jeb Bush, planting anti-Roy Moore stories in the Washington Post. We now have Roy Moore's accuser, Beverly Nelson, admitting that she forged the yearbook that Gloria Allred was waving around. And the drive-by media is not referring to that way at all. They're referring to it as, yeah, she made some notes in the margins. She's admitting that, but that's still all Roy Moore. David Brooks is focused and worrying on the wrong things. His party was headed to oblivion. It's Open Line Friday. Rush Limbaugh executing assigned host duties flawlessly. Zero mistakes. This Tim Miller guy, the Jeb Bush campaign staffer, Washington Post is reporting that he was planting or feeding anti-Roy Moore stories to the Washington Post. This guy, Tim Miller, is such a never-Trumper that he said, I guess it was back in 2000, I forget when he said it, but it was during the campaign. He said Hillary Clinton could beat Donald Trump even if she was in jail. It was in April of 2016. Hillary could beat, this is a Jeb staffer. Yeah, Hillary could beat Trump even if she was in jail. That's how unpopular Trump is. Mr. Miller is obviously got some problems. But this is the kind of stacked deck that is out there. And even with this stacked deck, can you imagine how frustrated the swamp and its dwellers are? No, seriously. These are people who, in their minds, run the world, folks. They don't just run the country. And I want to remind you of something McCain said back during it was a Trump episode involving North Korea, some Trump foreign policy decision or statement, and McCain was beside himself. His point was, I'm going to paraphrase what he said. His point was, why in the world would we throw away the agenda for world leadership that we implemented all over the world after World War II? Now, McCain was being entirely upfront honest about that because that's exactly what the establishment has done. Their view of the United States and its place in the world is entirely different than yours and mine. Now, some of the people I'm talking about literally believe we need to get rid of the whole idea of nation states and borders. Not all of them think that. But they do agree that the United States should have much more concern over the world than just itself. It's an argument Trump made recently in one of the G20 whatever conference he attended in Vietnam, I think is where it was, where he was talking to all the other attendees. And he said, look, I am going to make America great again, and you should be making your countries great again. And when we're all working together to make our countries great again, it's all going to work out well. The world is going to be better than it's ever been. Well, that's the antithesis of the way McCain was thinking. In their view, the United States, Marshall Plan, rebuilding Europe, NATO, Churchill's Iron Curtain, establishing the Cold War, all of these were constructs of the elite leadership of the United States in the post-war period. And so their purview is not just the United States. Their area of concern, dominant influence, is the world, and primarily the free world. But never mind that. Their idea, their psychology is one of power and control, not just of the United States, but of the world. And in that worldview, the United States can clearly be guilty of things. The United States can be a problem when trying to accomplish their world vision. They view Trump and his nativism and Make America Great as taking the United States out of this quote-unquote worldwide leadership role. The problem with that is the people who have been implementing this so-called worldwide leadership role have not been assuming leadership of the United States or primacy of the United States. They have been agreeing, for example, with the climate change advocates that we're to blame. They have been agreeing that we're to blame for poverty around the world. They've been agreeing with the idea that we're trying to impose our way of life in too many places around the world where it isn't desired. And by that they mean freedom and democracy. And so this cabal of elites either purposely or inadvertently began working at times against the national interests or interests of America as a nation state, subordinating it to the needs of the world. And this, of course, something Trump manifestly opposes and doesn't understand why American leadership should preside over the weakening of America just to make the world fair. Doesn't understand it, and I agree with him. Well, these people really do think that they are special and smarter. Brooks epitomizes this. They really do, folks. They think they're born better. They have better DNA. They have better genealogical traces. They have a better genome. They really believe it. And they have thrown everything they have at Trump. They have conspired and they have combined all of their massively large intellect, all of their intelligence, and they've fired everything they can at the guy. And at the end of the day, they really haven't made a dent. Now, some of you may think that they have by slowing Trump down. I'm not going to deny that things could have been happening in more rapid clip, but I still think it's almost unbelievable that Trump has been able to get anything done given what has been arrayed against him. But yet he does. The economic news, the reversal of fortune to the advantage of the United States on borders and illegal immigration, the massive amount of regulations that have been canceled, and there's still massive amounts of regulations to go that need to be canceled. Still a lot of things to do, but the momentum is still on Trump's side. And these people are literally beside themselves. Now this sexual harassment stuff's come along and taken them out. I mean, Trump has come along, and who would have ever believed that this would be one of the ways that the swamp gets drained? But it is. And every day, if you pay attention, we are treated to a new round of just abject disbelief on the part of these people who cannot believe what's happening to them. You can put yourself in their shoes and imagine that you are smarter than anybody in your neighborhood. I mean by a factor of 5. It's not even close. You're wealthier. Play the game. Pretend you're wealthier, you're smarter, and you've got people in the neighborhood trying to stop you from what you think would be improvements in the neighborhood, and you think you're going to mow them down. You've got the power, you've got the money, you've got the intellect, and everything you do, you end up as the coyote, and they are the roadrunner. And that's how they find themselves most often with Trump. They can't believe it. And so they're in a continual state of disbelief, which causes them to become even more irrationally angry. And irrationally is the word. Look at Jake Tapper here. A tweet. I've been talking to a journalist who wants to write a piece about her harassment at a major news outlet, but she's been warned by multiple people that if she writes the piece, she'll have trouble ever finding work again. Much remains to be done in this area, sadly, writes Jake Tapper. So I was trying to figure out, what network is this? So I went down the list. What network has not been outed, per se, with a major figure having to resign or be fired because of sexual harassment? So you go to CBS, Charlie Rose. PBS, Charlie Rose. Gone. You go to NBC, Matt Lauer. Gone. ABC. Anybody from ABC fired or gone because of harassment? Snurdly? Would Jake Tapper drop the dime on his own network? I mean, here's his tweet. I've been talking to a journalist who wants to write a piece about her harassment at a major news outlet. Could that be CNN? I mean, he works there. Would he be writing a tweet like this that drops the dime on his own network as a place that would intimidate women that came forward with the story? You think he could be? Okay, then if you think it's, then the two possibilities here are ABC and CNN. If you think Tapper would drop the dime in his own network, I'm not sure that he would. I'm looking here at ABC, which means there's going to be another shoe drop. This is the prelude to it. They're going to be dropping like flies over there. I'm over there, meaning at the drive-by media. This Franken charade yesterday. You know, it's fascinating. I got to tell you, it's fascinating. Everything, every point, every brilliant observation I made is all over the drive-by media today, in op-eds, in news stories, every point that I made. That's gratifying. Let's take a brief time out. It's Open Line Friday. We'll get started on the phone. Yes, I'm going to get... Okay, keep pressuring me here about Lindsey Vonn. What is it about Lindsey Vonn that's got you so fascinated in there? Tiger's ex? Is that what it is? All right, here's the story. Grab audio soundbite number 19. By the way, when I see Lindsey Vonn, you know who she looks like? Oh, now everybody's eyes perk up in there. There's an actress out there that used to be on a TV show called Law and Order, and her name is Elizabeth Rome. And I'm telling you, Lindsey Vonn's facially, I don't know much else, a dead ringer. It's uncanny. Doesn't mean anything. It's just I'm just illustrating my observational prowess. Anyway, skier Lindsey Vonn is in St. Moritz, Switzerland, where she spoke passionately about what it means to compete for the U.S. ski team. Well, I hope to represent the people of the U.S., not the president, she told CNN's Alpine Edge. CNN's Alpine Edge. Does CNN have is that somebody's name? Or is that a show? Alpine, or maybe CNN has its own lodge. Have you ever heard any Olympic athlete in the past ever claiming they did represent the president? Does Ms. Vonn realize half the people in America voted for Trump? Probably not, doesn't care. She's 33, getting ready for the final act. It says, their words, 33 years old, getting ready for the final act of a long and illustrious career. Well, maybe act is right. You know, the fling with Tiger didn't get her a movie deal. No. I don't know that was the objective. She didn't get a movie deal with. They broke up, and the rumors were because he was catting around. Away from the slopes, Vonn appears willing to put her head above the parapet and speak out about U.S. politics. She says, I take the Olympics very seriously, what they mean and what they represent. What walking under our flag means in the opening ceremony. I want to represent our country. I don't think there are a lot of people currently in our government that do that. She said she would not accept an invitation to the White House if she were to win gold medal at Pyeongchang. Absolutely not, said Vonn. No. But I have to win to be invited. No, actually, I think every U.S. team member is invited, so no, I won't go. And here's the audio. This is from CNN's website. Christina McFarland speaking with Lindsey Vonn. You previously competed in 3 Olympics under 2 presidents. How will it feel competing in an Olympics for the United States, whose president is Trump?
Well, I hope to represent the people of the United States, not the president. You know, I want to represent our country well, and I don't think there are a lot of people currently in our government that do that.
Would you accept an invitation to the White House if you were to win Olympic gold in Pyeongchang?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. No doubt about it. Absolutely not. She doesn't think there's too many people currently in our government who are representing the United States well. Let's take a break. Time is of the essence here. Back in just a sec. By the way, I had forgotten Jake Tapper's own producer was fired for sexual harassment allegations. So nobody famous at CNN's gone, but Jake Tapper's own producer. And now he's out there tweeting that he's been talking to a journalist who wants to write a piece about her harassment at a major news outlet, but she's been warned not to do it because she'll never work again if she does it. It's got to be ABC. I mean, could it be PBS? Could it be New York One? I mean, who are the major networks left? And here's what McCain said that I paraphrase. This was at it was in Philadelphia at something called the World Leadership, whatever it was, World Leadership. It was getting the Liberty Medal at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. And this is what he said: to fear the world we have organized and led for 75 years, to abandon the ideals we have advanced around the globe, to refuse the obligations of international leadership, and our duty to remain the last best hope of Earth for the sake of some half-baked, spurious nationalism cooked up by people who would rather find scapegoats than solve problems, is as unpatriotic as an attachment to any other tired dogma of the past. So that was a direct swipe at Trump. But, folks, the meat of that quote is this: to fear the world we have organized and led for 3/4 of a century, to abandon the ideals we have advanced around the globe. See, the problem with that is our ideals are not being advanced around the globe anymore by McCain and his people. We did after World War II. We did take the reins. And we did organize and lead the world. And we did establish the idea that America was the last best hope of Earth. But we've abandoned that because the people in that leadership group, the elites, the swamps, have been replaced as they've died or retired by either socialists or communists. We've gotten to the point now where this precious leadership of 75 world McCain talks about blames the United States. Wherever you go, wherever there's a world body, the European Union, NATO, I don't care where you go, the United States is always having fingers of blame pointed at it. Now, most of this is from a bunch of lesser nations simply trying to fleece us financially, but I don't care what the reason is. And we don't have people standing up for America. We have people joining this parade. Yeah, we got some problems. We've discriminated. Yep, we've been harassers. We've been this or that. Obama led the world in apologizing and blaming the U.S. And that's what Trump has gotten hold of and is correcting. And it's about time. Okay, so it's Open Line Friday. We'll focus on phone calls the next hour. Anything you want to talk about does not have to be sexual harassment, doesn't have to be politics. It probably will be, and that's fine. It can be anything you want. You got tech questions, and nobody better to ask them to than me. Be right back. Oh, my, this is too good. Email reveals effort to give Trump campaign WikiLeaks documents. CNN exclusive. CNN thinks they're really on to something here. You know, Donald Trump Jr. wants to claim privilege, not have to tell investigators what he talked to his dad about after he met with the honeypot from Russia and at that phony meeting. CNN exclusive email reveals effort to give Trump campaign WikiLeaks documents. So what? There's no crime in the campaign at all.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
I hate it when these show intros interrupt me. But the computer fires those babies. There's nothing you can do about it. Folks, greetings. Welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh, having more fun than a human being, should be allowed to have rhetoric and resonance in dulcet tones, reverberating coast to coast, east to west, north to south. EIB Network at 800-282-2882. Okay, let's take this first one. Now, I'm just going on the graphic on the screen. I'm not sure of the details here, but I think I get it. CNN exclusive. Email reveals effort to give Trump campaign WikiLeaks documents. Now, they're trying to make a scandal out of this, and this offends the heck out of me because the scandal is these are the people that created and wrote, bought and paid for the phony Trump dossier. The Clinton campaign, the Hillary campaign, you know the drill. They commissioned that dossier to be written. It's filled with unverifiable lies. The dossier is then used as the basis for this entire caca collusion investigation, for which there remains zilch zero nada evidence that Trump colluded with Russia to steal the election from poor Mrs. Pantsuit. Now, somebody's found an email that says there was an effort to give Trump campaign WikiLeaks documents. So what? These are the documents that WikiLeaks published. Even if the story is the Trump campaign wanted them. So what? But Mr. Limbaugh, they're illegal. They came from a hack. Don't talk to me about illegal. It's the Trump dossier that was illegal. It's the Trump dossier that's phony. It's the Trump dossier that's tainted. It's the Trump dossier that's opposition research. The WikiLeaks documents have never been denied by John Podesta or the Democrat National Committee or the Clinton campaign. We still don't know who hacked. This is being laid off on Russia, and I suspect that's going to be the connection here that CNN's trying to draw. The story is that CNN hacked the DNC network and computers, and then Podesta's emails, which are a large part of the WikiLeaks files that ended up during the campaign, those were not hacked. Those are the result. Well, it wasn't a hack as you think of it. Podesta fell for a phishing scheme, and he ended up opening up his computer to bad actors, as you will. And so the emails that he had sent and was sending and receiving ended up all over WikiLeaks. It was fascinating to me. Not one email from Mrs. Clinton, to or from, was ever displayed on WikiLeaks, but that's another side issue. So now what CNN is trying to say, I will bet you, is that the Trump campaign went to whoever hacked the DNC and asked for the documents, the WikiLeaks documents. And with this, they're going to try to prove collusion, that Trump was working with the Russians. It is becoming preposterous now how they will not let go of this. Email shows effort to give Trump camp WikiLeaks docs. And so they're trying to create a brand new scandal out of this. But that the wording, the Trump camp was sitting there minding its own business, and somebody approached them and wanted to give them these WikiLeaks documents. Not saying the Trump campaign accepted them. They're just trying to prove that there's a connection with Russia and agents and collusion. And again, folks, the collusion that we know happened was between the Hillary campaign in Russia and the FBI and Russia, not the Trump campaign. Let me jump forward into a story that I had slated for later after the tax cut news, but I'm going to go ahead and get into this because we had what I think was a bombshell yesterday, and it didn't get much play, but it's starting to now. Byron York at the Washington Examiners picked this up. Dossier author Christopher Steele was in contact with Obama Justice Department. So here again, we have evidence that it was the Obama FBI and the Obama DOJ that was in cahoots with Fusion GPS and Hillary campaign and the law firm and the guy that wrote the dossier, Christopher Steele. For the baby boomers in the audience, let me ask you a question. Snerdley, you're a boomer. I'm a boomer. Brian, you're not. Wendy, on the cusp. You remember the name Alexander Butterfield? Rings a bell, but you don't know from where. Well, let me tell you who Alexander Butterfield was. Alexander Butterfield was testifying one day during the Watergate hearings. And out of the blue, Alexander Butterfield revealed that there was a taping system in the White House. And it brought everything on the Watergate committee to a screeching halt. You mean everything we're looking for, said Sam Ervin, is on tapes? Butterfield said, I believe so, sir. It was a stunning bit of news, and right there you thought, whoa, this changes everything. When it was learned, I say we have a similar moment. When it was learned that Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democrat National Committee paid Fusion GPS to write that phony Golden Showers Trump dossier, that put a whole new light on things for me. And actually, I didn't even need a new light on things because, folks, and you regular listeners know it, I thought this collusion attack and allegation has been bogus from the get-go because I remember everything everybody was saying about Russian collusion all during the year 2016. I remember Obama poo-pooing it. I remember Obama saying it would be impossible for the Russians to hack our elections, federal elections, not possible. I remember the book that was written about the Clinton campaign. 24 hours after the election, the book says the Clinton campaign decided to launch as a political operation the idea that she lost because Trump colluded with the Russians. I've known this was manufactured and bogus from the get-go. If Trump were actually colluding with the Russians for all of that time, it would have been found out and he would have been toast. My only point is I never believed it. Just like I was able to tell you when we found out that Brian Ross was the guy behind this story that Trump, as a candidate, had instructed somebody to call the Russians, and then they had to correct it. I told you before ABC corrected it to ignore the story that it's Brian Ross and there's nothing to it. And the following Monday you were calling. How do you know? How did you know? Same way I know and knew this Russia collusion story has never been reality. Not about Trump and Russia. And then we had this shocking news that the Hillary campaign and the Democrat National Committee paid tens of thousands of dollars to this Democrat-led company, Fusion GPS, to write that Golden Showers dossier. Then we found out the FBI also paid Fusion. And then we found out about Peter Strzok in the FBI. And now we're learning that Obama's Department of Justice was in contact with Fusion GPS after the election. This is the story we had yesterday about a guy named Bruce Ohr, O-H-R. He served as Associate Deputy Attorney General during the campaign. That placed him just below on the organizational chart the Deputy Attorney General, the now famous Sally Yates, who ran the day-to-day operations of the DOJ. During Obama, in 2016, Ohr's office was just steps away from Sally Yates's, who was later fired for defying Trump's travel ban executive order. She then became a prominent anti-Trump heroine upon leaving the Justice Department. Unbeknownst to investigators until just recently, Bruce Orr knew Christopher Steele and had repeated contacts with Steele when Steele was working on the dossier. This puts a connection between the author of the dossier and the Obama DOJ. This equals collusion. Now, we don't know what was said. We have to be upfront and candid about this. We don't yet know what was said, but what in the world is a number 3 in command, essentially, at the Department of Justice doing, talking to the former MI6 agent who has been paid to write this phone?